Hi everyone and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast. We're coming to you from Fusion 15 in New Orleans. I'm Kirsty McGowan, I'm here with Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirsty.
And we're speaking with Kathleen Wilson and John Clark from Microsoft. Welcome guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to have you
Nice to be
here.
here.
So, John, you've been doing a lot of work in the DevOps space. You've been doing a lot more research, and you've been tweeting and talking a lot more about that. Can you kind of, I believe you were presenting on it as well. Can you guys kind of speak to what it was that you were presenting and, sort of a little bit more of the DevOps mantra, that you guys have been going down?
Sure. So what our presentation was really about the journey Microsoft's been through and is still going through continuously, especially in our cloud services organization, Office 365, Azure, Dynamics, and some of the approaches that are also changing within MSIT. And it was to what's been that experience? What are the lessons learned? Things like monitoring service capabilities end to end versus monitoring faults, which is what we've traditionally done. Changing the role of service desk. In fact, we did a fun role play where we went through two scenarios. Once, old school, and everybody kind of recognized, that model of, we had one person walking around with, I don't know how to solve this. I don't know how to fix this. Will you help me? No, I don't. I don't do support. And then we flipped that to be very, we're applications, operations, everyone's kind of in sync. They understand the services end to end. They're monitoring for those capabilities. And there's a lot of automation. Kathleen played the role of service desk. So initially she was very snarky, I guess is a good word. Antagonistic.
So was that hard role for you to play?
No.
No, it comes naturally by me. I'm very natural at that.
Where, the traditional service desk models, I try to solve your problem. Where we really see the service desk becoming more of, I'm going to help you self-serve. I'm going to help you understand how to find your own method of solving your problems through knowledge, through a self-service portal, through any of those means, so that you can have that visibility right away. And we were able to simulate it, and we didn't know how it was going to go, but it actually went pretty well. This was the second time we've run this kind of just real quick simulation scenario. Just have fun, passing mics around. Yeah. And I think people got it. And they kind of saw, rather than just getting a PowerPoint of what is DevOps, it was a kind of an experience for them to go through.
So, Kathleen, from your perspective, was John accurate on this? Because you had the other side of that role. So what was your experience with that?
Oh, no, my experiences with that is it's been true, right? Because when people move to cloud computing and now in DevOps, the traditional service desk world is changing, right?
Sure. Yes.
People don't call up a service desk, hello, can I get some compute in the cloud? It's like the expectation is that I can go help myself. Yeah. I'm able to see things in a dashboard. I'm getting true services visibility. The perspective of I'm the client that consumes this service, whether it's on premise or in the cloud, that I'm able to see those dashboarding capabilities through it. And it takes a little bit of humility, I would say, and understanding. Somebody did a great thing, is empathy versus sympathy yesterday. Right. Is like putting yourself in the shoes of the person who consumes the service. Right. And truly identifying, I work in IT, I enable infrastructure. If we move to the cloud, I may not be enabling infrastructure, but I need to enable business capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's the roles have changed a lot, and our users and customers now are an awful lot more tech savvy than they used to be 10 or 15 years ago. So they expect to be able to help themselves, and they expect to be able to fix things themselves really quickly, just with that little bit of guidance from us.
Well, if we look at, we deliver Office 365, and we really look at anything manually we do is a bug, right? So you would actually take that, put it into TFS. Yeah. It's in your backlog. It's like, okay, we've been doing this thing manually. How are we actually going to automate that and become more efficient? Become the provider that the business has been demanding for years. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that, for many, many years, infrastructure has been debilitating the lack or the inability to be innovative, right? And right now, if you're an IT pro, your job is going to wane, right? You need to accept the fact that you need to manage higher up the stack, you need to be a service value provider, and you need to enable the business capabilities that the business demands, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we've seen is especially that frontline kind of thing. I know from a user perspective, if I'm looking for some support, I'd almost at this point rather find it online, do it through a chat or whatever, partly because just from time flexibility. there's no set time. It might be 1 in the morning, it might be 2 in the afternoon. So if it's there, I'd rather find it. But I think the other thing is that first line support is, once they have a better sense of what the real business outcome is that they're trying to achieve, I think they can be more intelligent about the support they're providing. They're not running down a script. They're not just kind of throwing information at you. They have a much better grasp of why is this person really calling me? Yeah. Oh, and even though they're coming at you with a certain question, you might realize, hey, they're really not asking about this. They're having this other issue, and based on the knowledge bases and whatnot, I think you can provide a lot more. So it's kind of interesting that you're seeing that as well. But so that all plays into your the role playing that you guys did. So how big was the group? And I'm kind of curious. I mean, we missed that presentation, so I'm kind of curious as to what was the feedback that you got, at least on spot right there from folks.
How many people were in the room?
Probably 50 to 70.
No, there was more than that. There was more than that. It was probably about 200
crowded.
people. Like if I look at the room.
The feedback was very good, and this was actually we presented something very similar to an internal conference we have at Microsoft called Tech Ready. And we were doing a presentation on DevOps, and the night before, there was 4 of us presenting it, and I said, let's not just do a PowerPoint deck. As people need to experience it. They don't want to, and let's make some fun of ourselves. Okay, it's always.
We're very good at doing that.
A lot of material there, John.
And you know what? There is material. And Microsoft's always been very self-critical. They tell us to be self-critical as well. That's one of our core tenets. And so the night before we say, let's just simulate this and let's do a couple things. One of the guys, I said, I want you to be an old school developer. What does he do? He starts typing and does this. He's the old select type typewriter.
The old punch cards, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and the feedback was they were like, okay, of all the DevOps presentation I've been to, this one made sense because we could experience as the audience. We were involved. We laughed. Right. Humor is a great way to learn and memorize concepts. Yep. Right. So we decided, okay, let's see if this works at ITSMF. I think it did.
We got some really good feedback.
Yeah,
like some people, we had a lot of people hanging around afterwards. It's like, wow, you guys are really transformational. You guys are doing some really great things.
Cool. But some of the challenges though that they were sharing was, my app dev team, they like responding to fires.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is the impact that they're having. And my guidance was, speak in iMessages. I can't change your behavior, but I can share what your behavior results in from an impacting my organization or the business as a whole. And if you think that's good for the organization, great. My guess is senior leadership's going to look at that and go, why are we doing this? Why are we doing things this way? If we're impacting customers, if we're impacting partners, that shouldn't exist that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, putting out fires is great if they start. Preventing them is probably a little bit better. And we've had that conversation with folks where we've had a lot of conversations around the hero mentality, and like you're saying, they like putting out fires. Well, yeah, they're firemen. They should but if we can prevent it, that's I think really where the key is.
Yeah, we want to stop the fires breaking out in the first place.
Well, and it's based on how you measure people. So we have these things at Microsoft called commitments, right? And I measured on making other people great. Okay, so that's about, how did I build something or leverage something and was able to come out with a better success or outcome for it. Right. So we have to actually change the way we're measured as an organization. We have a new leader now, Satya Nadella, and really we're embracing open source, like things that, we're no longer that cult of Microsoft. It's like, we're focusing on business outcomes. We want you to be successful on any platform. We want to manage, help you manage your services better.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing anybody that's spoken to me over the years I've always talked about. We complain about certain behaviors, but yet structurally we tend to incent those very behaviors we're trying to change.
Exactly.
So to your point, unless you start changing, whether it's financially or some kind of reward system or whatever it is, that's really where the key is. We can't tell them, tell folks to go do something, but yet structurally, we are going to reward the very opposite, behavior.
Yeah.
Whether it's bonuses or whatever, it's like, from a silo perspective, you guys are doing great, you get rewarded, but I need you to talk to each other. It's like, well, that's not the incentives.
That's not what you rewarded me for, so why should I bother doing it?
Exactly. So So I mean, it sounds like, I mean, transformationally. I mean, and I know, John, you're fairly new. I mean, what, 5 years now, 6 years with
Microsoft?
Yeah.
5 years this week.
Yeah. So I know. So that's fairly. Kathleen, you've been there.
10 years.
Yeah.
I drag John to come and join me on the dark side.
So you've seen maybe more of the transition from the older Microsoft. So I'm assuming that's a pretty enlightening and energizing period for you, having seen kind of some of this transition to what you're speaking to us now.
Well, and when I first joined Microsoft, we have technical account managers, and I came in and it's like they were excited that the fact the customer had a critical situation and took down their production systems for 3 days. Like they're bragging. It's like, I've been on a crit sit for 3 days. It's just like,
oh dear.
Shame on us.
Yeah, that shouldn't
why
be happening.
were you
Yeah.
bragging about that? It's like, customer failed on our platform.
Right.
And we started changing the conversation more. It's like,
Right.
how can we proactively prevent these things?
Right.
Moving forward. We've developed services such as the risk assessment program online where you connect. It's a completely Microsoft Azure service, and we look at all the settings that you have for Exchange, Skype, any one of our products, and we can see if you're actually using some of our recommended practices from settings, and then help with customers with a remediation plan. It's like, let's get you right. What can we do from educations, workshops? What can we do from a consulting perspective, right? So the idea is like, our goal is to make you successful on our platform or anybody's platform.
So that's really about changing the mindset of the people working there who love putting out fires. You really want them to be the fire prevention agents rather than the firefighters.
Yeah, we killed the cowboy.
Yeah.
We killed the cowboy.
Yeah. Good on you.
Well, thank you so much, John and Kathleen, for joining
you.
us.
It's been a pleasure.
Glad having you guys on.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.